Good morning, America. This is Ray Gilbride with WeSpeak.com. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about COVID-19, but we're going to isolate it down a little bit closer to the masks people are wearing. Why are they wearing them? Why do we have to wear them? Does it work? There's a lot of confusion, a lot of questions out there about this whole thing. So we reached out to special guest, America's Sheriff, Sheriff David Clarke, the author of Cop Under Fire and a true American patriot. Welcome to the show, Sheriff. Well, Sheriff, I got to ask you, there is so much confusion out there. People are hearing stories one way, they're hearing stories the other way. There's information out there. But when it really comes down, what is your viewpoint and your opinion on this whole situation with masks right now in America?
How you doing? First of all, good to see you. This issue of masks is sweeping the country. It's the latest in the moving of the goalposts by the American left, I believe. Nothing escapes politics anymore, not even a pandemic, not even public health. And now what you're seeing is edicts handed down from either the state or local level mandating that people wear masks under the guise of preventing the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19. And, I do my own independent research, Ray, and I read in depth and I read both sides, not just one side. And then that enables me to come to my own conclusion about things. Not many people do that. We have too many people in this country that just are willing to subjugate themselves to the government, to not duly passed laws, but orders that don't carry the weight of law, and nobody questions anything. But I've come across two studies, one very recently, and this is by two doctors, Dr. Brousseau and Dr. Sietsema, both from the University of Chicago. Dr. Brousseau is a national expert on respiratory protection and infectious diseases, and Sietsema is also an expert on respiratory protection and an assistant professor at the University of Chicago. Very in-depth study. I read it word for word. It takes a while to get through it, but you know what, it was worth it to me. And basically the title of this study, the conclusion is that masks for all for COVID-19 are not based on sound data. The other one that I want to point to is The Truth and Lies About Coronavirus, and this is by a doctor named David Williams. Both of those, if you put those names in the search engine, you can readily find these. But basically, the wearing of the mask does nothing. It doesn't protect you from spreading it. It doesn't protect you from getting it. Most of these masks that people are wearing, cotton, even the surgical masks, do not prevent the spread of coronavirus. So therefore, you'd have to ask yourself, why is the state mandating that we wear a particular thing? I mean, it's almost like mandating that, we wear a certain type of shoe or that men wear suspenders instead of belts. It's totally outside the role of government. But again, I think it's nothing more than the attempt by government, these control freaks on the left, to keep people under their control by mandating these masks. Now, just like the one doctor said, it's not based on science. This thing is based on politics. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, it's a speech issue. Has nothing to do with public safety or public health. It has to do with state control. And I believe that as we move on here and more places are starting to enact these things, when they get into court, I believe it'll be struck down on a First Amendment issue. And people who are not wearing a mask, their choice, they're not at any higher risk for catching coronavirus than people who are wearing these cheap masks. Now, the only masks that these studies point out that do any good are the N95 respirator masks, all right? Most people don't have those. And it isn't just any old N95. A whole market on these masks has opened up across the United States. You see them all over the internet. Anywhere from $1.99 up to $12 and $15, and none of them are effective. But let's stick with the N95 masks for a minute, the respirator masks. These are the ones worn by hospital personnel. They wear them to protect you, not to protect them, to protect them spreading infection to you as they're treating you, okay? Now, here's an important aspect about the N95 respirators worn by hospital personnel. They have to be specifically fitted for that mask. In other words, you can't open a box and everyone dip in and grab one out and put it on. it has to be fitted to your face, and everybody's face size and shape is different. Once it's fitted, when you're a hospital worker, then it's subjected to further tests with a fitted mask to see if it's actually stopping the spread of any sort of infection. There is nobody on the street, I'm telling you right now, there's nobody on the street wearing that type of mask that's been fitted. Here's another thing that people aren't thinking about. What's been recommended by the two studies that I cited here is that the N95 mask might end up running in short supply for hospital personnel, and that those N95 masks should really be reserved for hospital workers. But the reality is the average person on the street, even with a surgical mask, people might say, well, hey, it's a surgical mask. That does not prevent you from spreading coronavirus, nor does it protect you from getting coronavirus.
Well, Sheriff, as you pointed out, this may not necessarily be a real medical situation here. I mean, this is a mainstream media's taken it over. And it almost looks like they've weaponized this as a political tool, first of all. And second of all, we got to get the truth out on this. Every time a good article comes out, or information comes out, it seems like it's squashed by the mainstream media or the extreme left. Now, I know you use Parler, and together with me on We Speak here, we're getting the message out little by little, but what do we got to do to get the truth out to the people? What do you think about this?
No, yeah, that's what it looks like. That's why I said this is political. This has nothing to do with public health or public safety. But here's another important aspect that I forgot to mention. Dr. Fauci, the renowned scientist, right? I mean, everything that he says is gospel. Dr. Fauci in March, it's not that long ago, on 60 Minutes said there is no reason whatsoever or no need for a healthy person to walk around with a mask on. He said the best thing that you can do, and these studies point this out too, is wash your hands. That's the most effective thing that you can do to prevent from getting coronavirus. And some social distancing. They do point that out, that can be effective. But, when you talk about how do we get the word out, how do you eat an elephant? One spoonful at a time. A little here, a little there. Next thing you know, the elephant's gone. So, things like what you're doing, Ray, this platform you're allowing me on. And look, I'm not the medical expert, but I'm a consumer of these studies and the information they put out, so that when I make the decision, and I want to make that decision as to whether to wear a mask or not, when I make that decision, I can make an informed one. But I think over time, I think lawsuits are going to help, because the lawsuits, as they start rolling in against these communities, that'll get played as well. And I think, that from what I'm seeing anyway, that none of these mandates by either local or state government to wear these masks are based on any science. All it says, you hear a lot of slogans. You hear a lot of things like, if we could just save one life, out of an abundance of caution. It's all junk, because none of this is based on science. It's based on politics.
Well, Sheriff Clarke, in Washington State is getting a little bit crazy again. They're even talking about possibly rolling it back and closing again temporarily. And with these fines that people can get now, labor and industry has been weaponized to go after businesses, give them $10,000 fines. People are actually facing jail time. What does somebody do when they're approached by an officer or somebody?
Yeah, that's another thing that's highly problematic, that this is an order. This isn't even a duly passed law. And even if it was a duly passed law, I still think it's a constitutional violation. It's a constitutional issue. But here's what you can do. And I noticed that some municipalities, some states are not making this be enforced by the police. They're saying the public health department will enforce it. That's a good thing. You don't need the police running around stopping people unnecessarily because they don't have a mask. First of all, many of these laws and ordinances do allow an out for some medical reason to not wear the mask. And just to have the police come up because you don't have one and start questioning you, I find highly problematic. Fines and jails for not obeying an order that is way out of line, highly problematic. So if you get, in one of those states where the police could stop you and question you, cooperate. Don't make a big deal at the scene there. But take these things to court, ask for a jury trial, have some lawyer in your community, a constitutional lawyer, one who wants the Constitution preserved and protected, file a class action lawsuit and seek damages when you win that lawsuit. That's going to make these control freaks at the government level start to back off.
Well, thank you, Sheriff Clarke, for coming on the show again today and sharing your wisdom and guidance to the American people. Is there any last words you want to say to everybody?
Keep fighting.
Well, people, there you have some very good information that the sheriff brought forward. We encourage you to do your own research, to go out there and look. These articles are out there, but you got to dig for them. Why? Because the mainstream media is suppressing it. And that's why you need to come to WeSpeak.com, because you will get the truth here. We will put this information out. We are not scared to tell the truth. If people don't like it, they don't have to watch it. So from WeSpeak.com, America, have a great day and be kind to the ones around you.